All right.
I am so fucking excited to be having this conversation with you, Robin. Oh my gosh, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
this is so cool, huh?
So
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but the last couple of well, in general, I like to pull oracle cards like every morning. They're fun. So I've been working with the Let Baron Reed's Oracle of the Seven Energies. And the card that I pulled today was all about shame. And
Ah,
so because I know that since we've been reading the Pussy Reclamation book, um, that our higher power is our pussy. So I've been asking, okay, what does my pussy want me to know? What message does she have for me today for my highest and greatest good? That's usually how I phrase it. And so
hmm.
then I get like this oh sorry, upside down. Exposed and revealed. So if I pull it a little bit, okay, hopefully it's not
Okay.
getting blurry. But I just wanted to read something out of it because I thought it was so spot on. Um, so it was talking. It just said, um, so shame. See shame as the heart wrenching cry for help that it is.
Hmm. Wow, that is profound.
Yeah, and and then there's another part that says, look upon shame as an opportunity for growth, evolution, healing, and freedom. And
Hmm.
just even that, those two ideas, like it's a cry for help, and like this is part of evolution, helps kind of take some of the hostility and like the pressure off of it, off of shame, I guess, in a way for me anyway.
Hmm. It just signals to me that there is a place for doing the work and finding the possibilities to navigate beyond shame. And that is part of our journey, and that's part of what we're meant to do, especially as well, all humans. I mean, I don't think there's a human on the planet who doesn't experience some form of shame at some point. And that for us to be able to transcend that and get beyond it, um, is a powerful part of our evolution. And I've never heard it acknowledged before, but I really think that that is so true.
Yeah. And I know sometimes we're born into cultures or families or even religion where you're born and all you are is shame. Like just the fact that you exist is shameful. And I know, at least for a lot of the well, aren't all religions patriarchal at this point? But it was in Mormonism specifically, it was just like being born as a woman meant I didn't have anything to offer except except being an incubator for other men to keep spreading their shit around. And my mom had, let's see, there's four boys in my family. And I remember her feeling like her worth was tied to having boys as opposed to having daughters. And she had six daughters. So I think in my family, some of us were trying to break like some of this shit. I'm like, no, we're not going to let this cycle keep continuing. So,
Wow.
so it's even just
Wow.
like shame around your own gender. And I mean, we see that nowadays with
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I think I grew up with a lot of gender shame, and I think that's sad. And what's sad about it, what really saddens me is, I mean, first of all, gender, okay, so everybody's got some kind of a gender, and male and masculine and feminine, that's half of the population, either way you look at it. But it's so not life affirming, um, and such a not helpful thing. It's all about control. It's all about somebody controlling something. And when you're in a patriarchy and the male has to control everything. Masculine, it takes the joy out of existence. It actually takes the life out of existence, and it's just so horrifying w- um that people are suppressed that way.
Yeah. And I know for me, even the concept of pleasure is shameful. It's bad. Um, in in Mormonism specifically, it is taught that you are not to trust your body. You have no intuition. So don't you dare try to even develop it. Because if you're going to get an answer from somebody, it's going to be from their God. And it may
Hmm.
not be directly from their God, it may be from one of the men, their men appointed by God. So either way, women are still circumvented. They cannot have their own intuition. They still cannot trust themselves or anything else. And I remember when I was working at a pediatric clinic, I was doing phone triage, and there were women that would be calling in and just they would keep saying stuff like, "Well, there's something about this that even though you're telling me like this is normal, there's something about my kid that just doesn't feel right." And so I would tell them, I said, "You listen to your mother's intuition." Because at that point, I wasn't even comfortable saying like, "Listen to your intuition," because it still didn't feel acceptable. But I was like, you are their mother. There is a tie to your child that I do not know, that I cannot understand. If you feel like something's wrong, follow that lead. See where it takes you.
Yeah, so we're taught not to trust our bodies and not to trust our minds and not to trust
Yeah.
the higher power. I mean, that's like what is left, you know? It's not leaving you with much, and it diminishes us in so many ways. It's just kind of mind-boggling that actually that women have allowed themselves to be put in that place for so long, you
And
know?
I know and I know some don't know anything different. They feel like whatever culture or religion that they're in, that's what they have to accept. And that's bullshit. Yeah.
Mm.
I will be the
Well, we
first to
know
say
that now. We
that's
see that
bullshit.
now, right?
Right, right. And it's like if I had known this was possible and that this is healthy and there is nothing to be shameful of because the whole concept was like you're created in God's image. Well, then is God shameful? Because why are women shamed? Like, I mean, granted, like both, well, a lot of people in general just shame for their bodies in general. So it's like if we're created in this image of God and you believe that, then you have to believe all these other things that come with it. So if you can't if you don't have peace within all of the things that you have to accept about an idea, that's when it's time to fucking break the mold and create something for yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's such a false interpretation of what God and creation is all about, you know? And I feel like it's an interpretation through a certain lens of well, it gets back to control, but it gets back to it's not life affirming. It's just there's nothing about this that is life affirming. And if God created us here to be on the planet and to be life and to be a representation of whatever version of God we're supposed to be, then something is wrong. Something is very wrong with that. And I think, it just stands to reason that we start questioning that. We start questioning that and we reclaim the power that is ours, the power that is the life force within us. And we get to experience pleasure. We get to experience power. We get to experience, um, our femininity, our masculinity. We get to experience life. And that to deny life is the same as living a sort of a slow form of death. So I think that um, it's important to recognize. It's important to recognize and to try to heal from that.
Yeah. Because that slow death piece that you're talking about, that for anybody who has experienced that type of pain, whether it's a literal like a slow death of something, or like the emotional or spiritual or mental side of yourself that might be experiencing that, it is agonizing to watch, and you feel even more and more broken the longer it goes on. And what little value you felt like you did have for the person, the party, the situation, that gets removed and becomes less and less and less. And so you are having to shrink and close. You're having to make yourself malleable to fit in to society that does not agree with having giving the femininity the attention it deserves, and the recognition and the balance and the healing.
Exactly, exactly. And it's interesting that you use the word broken because I have always rejected that idea. Um, I almost reject the idea of healing, but it's a way to talk about it. Because it's more like we have to get back to that place where we can remember actually who we are before we've had all these beliefs instilled upon us and all these limitations instilled upon us and all these shouldn'ts and shame and everything else that's just been dumped on us and dumped on us for generations, for time, forever. And remember who we are and that we are vital, valuable, um, life forms and that we have every right to exist on the planet in our full fucking glory. You know, and
Yes,
not to feel diminished, not to feel um disempowered, not to feel, so um subjugated to other people's beliefs, and it's like creating a form of hell in our existence. It doesn't need to be there, you know?
absolutely. And I appreciate you mentioning the you not buying into the concept of someone being broken, or that we're healing. And granted, like there's context around why there is that.
Mm,
Um, when I started my healing journey, like 10, oh geez, 10, 11 years ago, I would not have been able to understand what you meant by that, because I was like, no, they have broken me, they have diminished me. I am less than the scum of the earth. That is how low I am
mm,
in this system, in this family. Like, this is bullshit. But the more that I'm learning about like who who you actually are, that light inside of you, your soul, your essence, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, that is a big ball of beaming light that never goes out. It's just all the other shit that gets dumped on top of it and presses us down, that makes it feel like we have lost sight of who we are, and we do feel broken, and we don't feel whole. We feel incomplete. And
mm.
one of the things that was the most helpful thing for me to hear. Okay, so I will probably be talking about Outlander because I love Outlander. And for those who don't know the series, go read the books, go watch the TV series. But there in the TV series, there is something. Yes, I'm mentioning a spoiler for anybody that doesn't know anything, but there is a scene in one of the later books where Claire gets gang raped, and Jamie, her husband, comes to her, and the first thing he says to her is, "You are whole." And that made me bawl. Like, just,
Yeah.
I felt like he was saying those words to me from the shit that had happened to me in childhood. I was like, thank you, someone, for being able to recognize that and call it out, because that is huge. That is so
Yeah.
fucking huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so it's profound. It's profound in its compassion and its and the way that usually things are not portrayed or are not seen. And to see that and to call it out is so empowering and so affirming. I think that's just amazing that someone would actually write that into a book or a series.
Yeah. So it does kind of beg the question, like, where are women turning to try to find healthy messages? And I think, like, well, romance is a hit for good reason. A lot of like these TV shows or like historical fiction, like Bridgerton, things that were set back when women were more suppressed and didn't have as much freedom. The men that gave them that freedom were the ones that were like, oh, these are the romances developing. And it's because of the way that the guy is seeing her differently, seeing her as an individual, more than just a companion, more than just, quote, a helpmate from the Bible, because I don't like that. But it is,
Right.
it, but they really are trying to make their other partner as equal as they can be at that in the time. So while publicly they may not have been able to fully like put that out in the open, at least within their relationship, there was that equality. There was never this submissive, like, you have to go do this for me. Like, I'm going to go off on my adventures and, fuck you, stay here. But then there are some women that that's all they want. They're like, no, I am happy to serve and be with my husband and just serve my kids. And I wonder how they if they really still feel that way by the time, you know, their
I
kids have
wonder
moved
if they
out.
really feel that way. Is that just the
Yeah.
bullshit line that they've been fed forever because that's the only possibility that they see? That they haven't seen a different possibility for themselves, or they couldn't imagine a different possibility for themselves. And that's all that they're trained to think that they deserve or could ever want, you know? Maybe that is all they could ever want. And that's a valid decision, I suppose. But to not know that there is more, and to not see it and to not want to embody that seems to me that it's it's not a true choice. It feels to me like we are made for growth and we are made for possibility and we are not made to feel limited or repressed in any way. And and somebody just said that it's not selfish to find that we love ourselves. In fact, it is selfish to not find that we love and care about ourselves and want to grow. Because when we grow, everybody else grows around us, and there's a ripple effect out into the world, out into the community, and people see other possibilities when they see us shining our light. And so, I feel like that is what we're here for, is to shine our light in our light and empower ourselves to our truest, fullest capability. And fine if you think that all you're capable of is raising kids and staying barefoot and pregnant. That's wonderful. But I beg to differ with that assessment. And I would, anybody who believes that, I would seriously challenge their belief system and see just what more is in there that they're afraid of. What are they hiding from?
Yeah. Because if our beliefs come from our family, are they truly ours? If they
Right.
really come from religion, are they truly ours? And so I remember having conversations with people within Mormonism when I was leaving Mormonism, because they were like, "Oh, I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity and the chance to choose this religion for myself." And I'm like, "Okay, but you were born into this religion. Your parents are religious. You say you experimented with other religions, or like you really made the commitment to this one, but really, did you? Like, did you even give yourself a chance to explore?" And I bet you 90% the answer is no. You did not explore. What they mean by that when they usually
Yeah.
say that is like they strayed. Like maybe, because Mormons are all like no sex before marriage. No, like even kissing can, is not necessarily a good thing because it can lead to more behavior that you can't control. Okay, so talk about disempowering other people. You can't control yourself. So you cannot participate in sex or sexual activities, right?
Oh
But
dear.
but but you think about like teenagers needing to experiment with their body and their hormones and with life and like decisions and their dreams. Like this is a time where they're really trying to get to know themselves. And a lot of parents in Mormon communities, it's like, okay, you're skipping church. Okay, that's not okay. You're smoking, you're doing drugs. Like there might be other things. And so going on that like a normal teenager might experience in life. So when people say like, oh well, I made a choice to be Mormon, it's like, well, what experimentation were you doing that made you think you had made that choice? You just felt guilty doing the things that you quote weren't supposed to do in the religion. And it's because of that guilt that you kept feeling like, well, the only way that I feel better about myself and who I am is if I do exactly what I'm told. And for a lot of people, that's what they need. They don't want their power. They want to give it away. They would rather be told what to do because it's easier. And I
Yes.
will I will say hands down, yes, it was easier being told every single fucking thing I had to do, every single thing to believe, even if I didn't agree with it. It was so easy. And then people gave me shit saying I left because it was too hard. I'm like, no, no, no. Me leaving was the hardest thing to do. It was the hardest thing to do.
Well, of course. And the reason is because when you're with a group, when you're with your community, the community that's trying to guilt and shame you back into the community because there's a sense of survival, there's a sense of safety there within what is known. And when you
Yeah.
step out into what you don't know, then you're taking a big risk, and from an evolutionary standpoint, there's the fear is real. And and sometimes you just have to make that break, take a leap of faith and know that something is not for you and that you're making a choice that is better for you. But I don't think a lot of people would be brave enough to make that choice or committed enough to make that choice, committed enough to self-love. So,
Yeah.
um, and they want the easy way. They want the easy way because it's safe and the community gives them comfort and now they're not getting shit from their community. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's it's it's back to control. It's back to control.
Yeah.
The community could embrace the person who strays away if they wanted to. They could accept that, but they don't want to accept that because it's something different that they don't want to accept and understand. Do they fear it that much? Because when they see that people are living in their true light and their true life, that exposes the whole community. Oh my God,
And
what is that gonna do? You know? What is that gonna do? It's such a radical thought for some people, It's like, freedom.
and I think and I think you're right. It terrifies some people because
Hmm.
it's a level of freedom that they have no way of comprehending because they haven't experienced it like that.
Hmm.
And so it can feel really scary. And for other people, it's like it can be the exact opposite of where it's liberating. It's like a relief within yourself of like, I never believed that and it felt wrong in my body. And now I finally did something to make good, make peace within myself. Like I am not going to participate in this abusive religion anymore. I'm so sick and tired of women being underrepresented and then made to feel shamed and small for even asking for equal opportunities. Like, even within Mormonism, because like all the buildings, pictures of men, you're lucky if there might be a picture of a woman or two, and that would be like the women who are holding a position at the top, near the top of the church. They're never at the top. They're
Mhm.
somewhere, you know. But the songs all about men, like it's yeah, and then women are then pushed into this area where it's like this is all you can be. You're the homemakers, you're the nurturers. That's all we want you to be. You cannot be anything more than that. There was there's a point to this. Hang on, where am I going with it? But oh yeah, so in Mormonism, the men hold this thing called the priesthood. So you can think of it as this, just think of it as like this magical little ability or gift they give themselves to make them feel important. It's almost like hey, I can heal you because I have direct access to God and you don't, kind of a thing. So they would have, this imaginary power, whatever you want to call it, and then they would use it to bless other people, to help other people who were going through a hard time. Women not allowed to do any of that. So when I was coming out of Mormonism back in the end of 2013, early 2014, there was actually another woman, a Mormon woman. Her name was Kate Kelly, and she was part of a group that was trying to get the priesthood to be available to the women. Make it equal. You've got it. So the excuse in the past was always that, well, women can bear children. Men don't have that opportunity. So the men need to be given the priesthood, this imaginary ability. And it's like, these are apples and oranges. They do not equate. The man is involved in impregnating the woman. Yes, she carries the baby, but he's a part of that process. Like,
Yeah.
so don't you dare say, oh, well, God gave this gift to a woman. So now we're going to give this gift to a man. Like, so it seems like there's a very, very low ego worth. So they have to pump themselves up full of power and control, and of course they feel better like smashing down other people, and oh, it's disgusting. Why would
Wow.
you want to stay in it, especially if you know that you have another choice?
That's so interesting because in a lot of cultures, women are the bringers of life. Women are the healers. And, you know, it seems so counterintuitive to think that men should be have that role and have that, I mean, yes. Yes, in our societies we give men that power, but it's counterintuitive to what life is all about. Women are the ones who are the nurturers, the carers, the givers, the healers, and women are the ones who raise those men. And let us not forget that for a minute. So I think women have some responsibility there that if they're going to be raising these men, they need to be raising these men to that sensitivity that everybody has a place on the table and everybody has equal power. Why would any woman allow her son to think that men have more power than women?
Yeah,
That kind of blows me away.
yeah, that baffles me too. And you're right, because as much as I may hate the patriarchy for so much shit, and like the men in my life who have done those things to further try to enslave me. And at the same time, I also have a healthy amount of anger towards women too, because they have let things go by. They have let,
Mm,
even within my own family, there were things that happened to me that I thought of my mom would have stopped that she didn't. And I'm
hmm,
just like, what? What? This is a bigger issue because now I'm understanding as an adult. She was being told boys will be boys when stuff was done to her. And then, like, to go back previous generations and to find out how far back this sexual trauma and abuse has been going on and within the
mm.
families. And it's just like, no. That's why when I was like, this pain and suffering is stopping right now, and it's going to stop with me. I'm going to break the silence around so many things, not just the abuse at home, not just being sexually abused. Let's talk about the religious abuse. Let's talk about like the things that are done in the temples that are so spiritually shattering to
Mm.
someone who knows that they don't that what they're experiencing is not right.
Wow. Well, congratulations, because that is a bold, brave decision, and it's hard. It's hard to do that work. It's hard to make that decision. It's hard to go through all that. And, it must have caused a lot of pain for you. But at the same time, how empowering. And to make an empowering choice to change your life is just, um, it's inspiring. So I'm glad you're here to inspire us.
Thank you. I think that has also given me more of the courage and empowered femininity to stand firm and strong when stuff like this is happening in the real world and for me to try to put a stop to it. So it could be even in my profession, I might see something going on and put a stop to it. Like, nope, you do not talk to someone this way. Um, and then
Where,
nursing also is, oh, go ahead.
can I ask, where do you think that courage came from?
Oh my God. It came from me fucking confronting all of that, all of
Yay!
that toxic masculinity, all the bullshit lies I was fed about myself from
Yay!
the sexual abuse I endured from babysitters and family members and other members of the community. It was like,
Mhm.
no, fucking no. I have a really exciting story because this is something that I never thought I would get to this point because I kept feeling like I had to be the one to flee. If I wanted healing, I had to find some place safe for me to heal because no one else was going to do anything. They were not going to change anything about themselves or their environment because according to them, they had done nothing wrong. So it was me having to leave and find a safe place to go to heal. So I lived in the Pacific Northwest for a few years. And during that time, I was able to do like a lot more intensive healing around religious trauma in particular, and some of the sexual trauma. So when we moved back, um, to Arizona, my husband and I were in a grocery store, and I was in a separate aisle from him, but all of a sudden he comes running up to me and he's like, "Hey, your brother's here. We got to leave." And this was the brother that had done stuff. And I was just like, "Oh shit." Okay, so I'm pushing my cart, trying to get away as fast as I can. And I get to the other side of the store and I stop. And I asked, and I said out loud, "Why am I the one running? I didn't do anything wrong. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide from. No, I'm staying right fucking here. I'm standing my ground. Let's go finish shopping." And we
Mm.
did. I didn't see him, thank goodness, but I felt so fucking empowered being able to stand strong in myself with everything that I had reclaimed to that point and be like, nope, I'm not scared of you. Fuck you. I'm just going to have a grin on my face if you see me, but just know it's because I've beat this. I am not who you think I am. I'm not the same person when all of this stuff happened, let alone the same person when I confronted you as an adult. Like, so much has healed to where I I enjoy being an advocate for another person in these scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got really excited. I got really into that. I was like, I'm so proud of myself.
Well, you should be. I think you should be because from that decision comes true empowerment. You know, when you decide to stop running, when you decide to hold your ground, it's so affirming and it speaks to your strength and who you are. And I think that's true braveness and it's true self-realization. I think that's wonderful. You're shining in your own light
Thank
and the
you.
power, And that's where growth happens and that's where real power comes from. That's who we are. And that's just a shining example. I think that's beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. So what about you, Robin? What have your experiences kind of been?
My experiences have been that I came from a place where women thought that they were powerful and empowered, but I feel like the reality is they had so many limiting beliefs about who they could be and their sexuality and their sensuality. And it was actually, like a real puritanical place. Like the women all had these amazing careers. They were, doctors, lawyers, artists, this, that, and the other. But but at the same time, they were just showing their masculine side and they were so afraid, I think, of their own femininity and their own inability to embrace the goddess within them. And I think that that's what is missing in a lot of places, in the places that you were talking about, and in this place where only the masculine is recognized, that the power of our feminine side and the power of our goddess is has been quashed. It's just not there anymore. And I see this, and I grew up with all these limiting beliefs about, to be pretty is wrong, to be sensual is wrong, to express any desire about sexuality or anything like that. Well, we just don't talk about that. We don't talk about women having their periods or anything like that. Yes, we can talk freely about women having children, getting pregnant and stuff like that, but we're not going to talk about why or anything like that or how that happens um so to attach any emotion to that or any meaning to that was just not there, and it was still wrong. I mean, it was still wrong and there's still guilt and shame about that. And then growing up, I had lots of like instances of being molested and abused. I was raped, things like that, like at the hands of men. Um, and what gives them the right? What gives them the right? So I decided to take a stand and make my claim. And, why is it that the men get to have the adventures and the women don't? Well, fuck it. I'm going to have my own adventures and I'm going to go out and travel the world by myself. And I'm going to. So, so I did do to a lot of extent that kind of healing, but I don't think internally I ever really healed myself. So that's the journey I'm on right now. I'm working towards that.
I think it's beautiful that you're able to recognize you were calling this stuff out. Why do men get to do this? What makes it so that, they can have the adventures and they can have the fun? Why? And then you're like, no, I'm going to do it anyway. That's kind of the attitude that I had too growing up, was just like, What makes them so special? Like, fuck you.
Yeah, right? I mean, that whole idea, even like the hero's journey. Well, who is the hero? It's some guy, you know. It's like the women are supposed to be sitting back in the castle darning socks or something. I don't know, but what gives that, what makes that okay? What makes that even acceptable, you know? Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned like even traveling by yourself. Because I
Mm.
mean, how often are women traveling who want to travel and who are comfortable traveling by themselves? Like, how often is that happening? Is that's something that I recently discovered about myself that I've needed in the last 2 years. As far as like, I need some adventures. I need to be able to go off on my own and know that I can stand on, my own 2 feet and look at how much more resilience and knowledge and education I've gained to like handle the situation, going on. It's like needing to be able to test your own limits, but in a way that's safe for you.
Exactly, exactly. And I can remember growing up, like my mother would even tell me, it's not safe to walk in your neighborhood by yourself. I'm like, screw that, you know? You're not afraid to go walking, why shouldn't I, And I was like, I can claim my personal power. I'll take the risk. Yes, I have suffered somewhat for that, um but it's been worth it. It's been absolutely worth it, you know? And men will try to shame you for that too. And how could you do that? And why would you do that? And why would you want to do that? And why wouldn't you want to, why wouldn't you want to go with a male escort or whatever, chaperone or whatever the hell? And it's like, no, I don't need that, I just don't need
Yeah.
that. And it's not empowering for me. And I need to test this. I need to go out and see for myself what are the boundaries? What are the limits? And how can I claim my place in the world on my own, standing on my own 2 feet?
So it sounds like you stopped living in that place of fear, uh, and you chose something else.
Yeah, I chose something else. I don't think I ever had exactly fear about it, but well, just more shame and guilt and just this idea, like the limiting belief, like you shouldn't be exploring these things. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be, you know, and so for myself, I had to challenge those beliefs.
And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to do that. And then as you're challenging them, facing the reality of what those what the result is of it.
Well, yeah, the result is you become more and more independent and more resilient, and then nothing can stop you. You know, do what you want to my body, but I'm still gonna be here. I don't know.
That, oh my gosh, that's like a beautiful way of looking at it. Because even now as an adult, um, I have had the thought, if anything like sexual trauma were to happen to me again, would I be able to deal with it? Would I be able to handle it? And I think you just hit on something right there. It's my soul, my spirit, my essence, who I am, that is completely whole, will
Mm-hmm.
still be there. It
Yes.
doesn't matter. And the relationship that I have developed with my body is one of understanding and respect, because the things that my body did to help keep me safe are the things that I appreciate about it. And I'm letting it know, hey, we're not in that situation anymore. You can take a break. It's okay. It's okay that you don't need to do this anymore. But
Mm.
um I think there's a huge difference that's made when you start to make a choice from a place of empowerment rather than fear. Even like dating. I lived in a dorm my first year of college, and there were people. Not that I got asked out on dates very often, and it was mainly because I was giving off this vibe of like, I hate men, stay away from me, like y'all suck.
That's a
but at the
powerful
same,
vibe. I feel like I've given off that vibe most of my life, and it's
I think I
it's
did.
like
And
just don't fuck with me, just don't fuck with me, and literally, and that's like the biggest turnoff probably. But but when you're holding that in your body, and it's like so that's part of what I actually want to heal. I want to actually become more open
yeah, well,
possibility,
and I
but
think
yeah.
that's important to acknowledge too, because I didn't realize like how powerful that was, like that energy of like you just stay the fuck away from me.
Hmm.
Because having that experience of like, let's see, there's a guy that asked, so there was a guy at church even, when I was living in the dorm. We were having a great conversation. I was fine talking to him, had no problems. As soon as he asked me out, that's when like the pit dropped in my stomach. I was like, I cannot, no, no, no. But I said yes because it was the polite thing to do. It's the right thing to do because someone asked you to do it. As a woman, you got to do all these things for men. And then measles broke out on campus. And so I was like, ooh, hey, I got an excuse to get out of this date. Like, I can just say, hey, I can't be around campus, like this thing going on. And so, like, I literally did get kicked out of my dorm, like, for not that I was sick, but I did get kicked out. And so I missed that date with that person because I didn't have their phone number or anything like that. And then when I came back, I did kind of feel a little bad. And I remember asking one of my brothers, I don't know, should I call this guy back and apologize? And he's like, only if you're going to go out with him. And it was an understanding that like I'm trying to be polite and not mislead someone, but then they're going to take it as like, oh, you're interested. Let's continue going on. And it's like, no, 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 mixed signals, mixed signals. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, I feel
don't,
like it. Yeah, a lot of
it's like,
mixed signals come up, you know, and that's hard. It's hard, to be honest about your feelings when you don't even know what your feelings are.
hmm,
If you don't even know what your feelings are, you haven't allowed yourself to feel, then what are your feelings? And how can you possibly be honest about them? And you don't often get that chance to explore and find out, because you go into trauma mode or you go into whatever that is, and it's like, oh no, I can't, or no, I won't, or whatever, and it's like you reject yourself before you even start.
yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that I hated about dating was the expectation of a hug, or it was mainly the expectation of a kiss. And again, coming from a trauma background, I'm like, no fucking way am I doing any of this stuff unless I feel safe with you and I know I'm going to marry you. Because they saw the dipshits before me. I have an amazing radar to detect all the people I need to stay away from. So it was
Yeah.
interesting when I met my husband because we met online within 2 weeks of us having a membership on a dating site ending. And like we started emailing each other back and forth. And then he gave me his number and said, hey, if you want to call me, like you can. I know some women don't feel comfortable giving out their numbers, so don't feel pressured. And so I gave him like my dorm number. I didn't give him my cell number, but I'm like, my dorm number, whatever. That's not really attached to me, whatever. So the first time but then I didn't hear from him for like weeks. And my sister had bought me the book, He's Just Not That Into You. And so I'm like reading this book, like, it's been 2 weeks. This guy hasn't even like emailed me back. Like, what the hell? All right, I got to move on. I got to move on. Well, come to find out, like, he was studying for finals, and that's why he like had dropped the ball. But by the time he and I are talking on the phone, he's making me laugh. I'm giggling. Like, the way to my heart is like, you fucking make me laugh. Like, none of these other stupid douchebags were doing that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so like he was like speaking to my soul, I guess, like through the humor. And by the
Yeah,
end of that
yes.
phone call, I hung up and I was like, oh shit, I have a feeling we're gonna end up together. And it was like it was weird. I did not know what to do with that information. And then I think within like another 2 weeks we had our first date. And after our first date, I remember coming out of the movie theaters and knowing I'm going to marry him and not knowing what to do with this information because I had never gotten any of those intuitive insights before.
Hmm.
Like with dating other people, it was more like run for the hills or whatever. But with my husband, it was completely different. And I was like, so this is how it's supposed to be. There is that safety. There's not that level of pushing or, trying to get a hug or a kiss or hold hands or whatever. I think at the end of the night, he tried to kiss my cheek and I freaked out and like pulled away. And so he ended up kissing like the side of my ear. But we tease each other about this because like I had my keys already pulled out of my pocket, like ready to unlock the door. We hadn't even said goodbye.
We're ready to gouge him, right?
It's so like just, but again, you get someone who is respectful of
Mm.
women, who's very sensitive, and I'm not talking sensitive as like ooh, you're a snowflake too sensitive, like meaning that some people throw across. It's you're in touch with reality and you have emotional intelligence to also know that something else is going on with that person and knowing how to read the situation instead of just forcing your agenda.
Yeah, 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 and that's funny. Yeah, I think that it's so important, and it makes me wonder, like the men in the world who think that, they kind of conform to that masculine stereotype. It's like, why do women even want to have anything to do with them? Because they're so not women oriented and it's all about them. Like, what does anybody see in that?
Yeah,
Uh, hmm. And it seems like a lose-lose situation, sort of. I mean, everybody would benefit so much from just seeing each other as humans and seeing that there's a person there who needs to be respected and valued and not just seen as an object, being
yeah,
personified instead of objectified. Such
absolutely.
a creepy feeling.
Yeah.
Such a creepy feeling when you're up against that.
And I will speak for men because I know that this happens to them too. Like they get unwanted advances, unwanted attention, unwanted like stuff, and it's a double-edged sword because men will usually be the ones to get reamed for doing it to women, yet when men are uncomfortable, can they really say something to a woman to ask them to stop? Because will they get that same level of respect? Will they get any respect? So you're right. Both everybody would benefit from these types of conversations because the way things have been has not worked in a long time. I don't think it ever worked. But
Right.
now
So
we
that makes me wonder, why are we afraid to have these conversations? Are we
right.
so culturally suppressed that we can't have a normal conversation with a member of the opposite sex or a member of anybody? It's like, okay, this is what my boundaries are. This is how I feel about myself. This is how I feel about you. Why can't we have those conversations? That should be like a normal part of everyday life, if we're interacting with each other. Why is that not a given, do you think?
I know that a lot of it is I feel it was like still the secrecy around and shame around well, okay, like our sexual identity is part of who we are. And so if
Mhm.
we're taking that part of ourselves out, I mean, in essence, like we're making ourselves dead inside. So in order to be able to integrate all of us, all of us in entirety, we need to understand that silence is what's keeping things hidden, keeping things shameful, guilty, humiliated, and there's no room for healing when there's secrecy. It
Mm.
There needs to be a way to enter in. So I know I talk about breaking the silence, and it's like, well, let's break the silence around the fact that we some of us can't have these conversations. Let's bring some light into it and expose this. Say this is an area of like suffering that
Mm.
would really benefit everybody from healing. It's And I know some people are just so set in their ways and and they use that as an excuse, and I'm just like, that's bullshit. You do not have you have a fixed mindset. There's no growth mindset there with you.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but if we can all embrace our sexuality and our sexual identity fully and accept who we are, I think that's almost a gateway to these conversations. And there's so much fear, there's so much built around like role expectations and things like that. And if we
Yes.
could just give up some of that, give away a little bit of that, give away a little bit of the ego behind it
Mhm.
all, um, give away just that idea of we're supposed to have this identity or that identity, and just be more accepting of who we are and that we're all here on the planet, and we're all here to be human, and we're all here to grow. And if we don't have these conversations, it hurts us all. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the real key to change, to finding change, is that we have to start having these conversations. And we have to be brutally
Absolutely.
honest and take responsibility for ourselves and how we feel and how we think, and take those conversations to another level beyond just superficial and what we assume about people, and see what they really feel and what they're really about. Because I
Yeah.
bet you a lot of it is hiding, a lot of it is a shell, that a front that people put up because they think they're supposed to be this way or that way. And if we really got behind it, we'd find out that they weren't.
Yeah. It almost seems like just being born, existing as a human being for some people is shameful in and of itself, based
Yeah.
on their religion, based on their upbringing. And
Mm.
so it's, yeah, questioning this. Who who said this had to be the way it was? Um,
Yeah. Who are we, and who is anyone to tell us who we aren't?
exactly. Like maybe as a kid, we might have needed something growing up. We might have needed a structure, like some stability in the way a society or a religious thing may have helped us with. Like, for example, Mormonism does have good values of like family and love and service. And
Mm.
their definitions of those values may not be completely aligned with my definitions of those values. Because like family to them means you do fucking everything for your family first and you come last. That's what it is for a woman. Family, in my perspective now, is these are the people that are closest to my heart. It may be blood, it may not be, but these are the people that I care about, that I will do anything for, and who also recognize that I need to take care of myself first so that I can help them. Because otherwise
Exactly.
there's this level of resentment that builds because we're not able to have these conversations. We're not able to express ourselves the way that our soul is asking us to do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's resentment against other people and it's resentment against ourselves that we can't even have that conversation. We don't feel
Yes.
safe within ourselves to do that.